only you're down there in the crevice with only one way in and one way out sometime, but this fire creates its own weather pattern at times. And when you get this fire down in a gully, in a cavern, in a finger-like area, the rotation and the twirl, we've seen some of those fire devils.
Last night,
those took place last night. And when those start to whip up and around, then you see the fire change directions. It begins to go uphill, and that is bad because when fires go uphill, they move much faster. And it does not give people the good amount of time to either get out and evacuate, or it can start to spread. And then what we're dealing with, unfortunately, later on this afternoon and through the night and into tomorrow morning are the winds getting stronger. And what really concerns me is now the possibility of ember spread.
Right, ember casts.
That's really the dangerous part. We're not seeing as much of that right now because the direction is beginning to change to offshore, so the winds are not strong. But later on this afternoon, some of these flames will begin to get a little bit stronger. The air becomes drier as the red flag warning returns once again, and it's the dry air that is fueling all these fires here in Southern California. And then before we go on, that ember spray, that ember cast, as Courtney also alluded to, is going to fan out. And you could get one of those embers flying 1, 2, and we've heard situations in the Pacific Palisades area. Some of these embers have made their way more than 5 miles away from the line of fire. And some of these embers can get caught up in an attic, in an awning, somewhere in a tree, in a palm tree, and they can sit there for 3, 4, sometimes 10 hours. And then finally, a gust of wind catches up to some of these embers and they explode and they catch fire.
When I was out on PCH yesterday, I was with someone as they checked out their home that is completely gone. Everything is still on fire. There were embers the size of watermelons on the beach that were flaming, and it's just smoke everywhere. So there's big gusts. But the good news about the winds that's coming Monday through Wednesday and even tonight, it won't be as strong, right, as the 70-mile-per-hour winds, which was really what prohibited firefighters from their firefight on Tuesday night.
Monday into Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah, that was. I continue to say this to people here, our colleagues, people at home watching us. That was a once-in-a-lifetime event. You most likely will never see that happen again in your lifetime, thankfully, because we saw some wind gusts that were hurricane-force winds, up to 93, 95 miles per hour, and not just the mountains, but down into the foothills.
You predicted that was going to happen, but did it pick up even more so?
Yes, and Rich alluded to that too. He just was talking about last night, underestimating, and we tend to do that as forecasters because one, we don't want to scare everybody. Two, you want to get closer and closer to the day of the event, and the closer you get to the day of the event, the data begins to come in, and you can see the direction of the winds, you can see the force of the atmosphere, the way that the cold air, now this is all generated by cold air that is coming from the high deserts, and once that cold air makes its way up over the mountains and it begins to descend, that air compresses, it begins to warm up, and we eventually see these winds getting stronger and stronger as they head towards the beach communities. So,
are cold Santa Anas worse than warm Santa Anas?
Santa Anas are bad in general, but typically the compression is a little bit worse. Yeah, when that air is a little bit cooler or cold in nature, and that is very dangerous, and we're seeing that occurring, and we're going to see more of it, unfortunately, through the night into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as well as Wednesday. Here's a look at the winds for you right now. You can see out to the San Fernando Valley near the Van Nuys area, the fire lines. This is what is concerning. We're starting to see the winds beginning to increase. Look at Van Nuys, 22-mile-per-hour sustained wind speeds, and of course, we're looking at the high wind warning, but right now, as you can see, the high wind warning until we get to 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. A little bit more isolated to these areas near the Eaton fire, just above Altadena, Sierra Madre, Duarte, Glendora. Then as you travel to the west, you make your way near the Santa Clarita Valley, you get a little bit of a break in the action, and then you head out towards the Santa Susana Pass, and that's where the winds pick up again. And then we're looking at the western side of the Santa Monica Mountains, making our way through the Malibu area, all the way out towards Ventura County. So these are the areas that will continue to see gusts anywhere between 30, 35 45 and 50 miles per hour. And this is really alarming. The relative humidity values, they continue to crash. Van Nuys 12%. So what that means is we're getting closer and closer to relative humidity values that are 5, 6, 7%. There's just no moisture. That's extremely dangerous. And this is extreme fire weather that we're dealing with right now. For the time being, until we get into tomorrow evening, we're looking at the areas, the inland areas throughout Los Angeles, Ventura County. You can see those shaded in yellow, orangish on the left-hand side of your screen. That's a fire weather watch through the night and into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Red flag out towards Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange County, the inland areas. These are the areas, again, all of Southern California really looking at dangerous fire weather conditions. And as we take a look at the wind futurecast, we're going through it. And of course, we want to welcome you here. We're at the top of the 1 o'clock hour here on KTLA. Thank you for joining us for this extended fire weather coverage. Well, as we put the wind futurecast into motion, boom, there you go. Look at this. By about the midnight hour tonight into very early tomorrow morning, these are winds that are gusting up to 50, 55 miles per hour. And again, they come out of the high deserts near Victorville, Barstow, through the Cajon Pass into San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange County, and out towards the ocean. And once again, those funnel areas, those being the Antelope Valley through the Santa Clarita Valley, the I-5 corridor out to the Ventura, Malibu County coastline. But once we make our way into tomorrow afternoon, those winds sort of die down a little bit. They're isolated more to the mountain communities, some of the valleys. And then by Monday, midday, we start to see the winds picking up for the Santa Clarita Valley, Moore Park, all the way out to Oxnard, the northern section of the San Fernando Valley, also Crestline, Running Springs, Riverside, the inland areas of Orange County. And again, look at these winds all the way into early Tuesday morning. This takes us into Tuesday afternoon. The winds become a little bit more widespread by Tuesday afternoon, unfortunately, and the winds stay up into Tuesday night. We continue to see early Wednesday morning, those areas, those funnel zones, they're still picking up those strong gusty Santa Ana winds. Red flag warnings, I can guarantee you they will be in place next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And of course, unfortunately, with these fires and the strong winds and the dry air comes the smoke, and we've got a horrible atmosphere here.
And that leads us to our next guest who we have on the phone right now. There we go. That leads us to our next guest who we have on the phone right now, Dr. Tanya Altman. I know we talk about air quality with you often. You were in here recently talking about allergies, walking pneumonia. Now we have the effects of smoke and smoke inhalation on people, on young people, on older people, a more vulnerable population. Dr. Altman, what do you make of all of this, and are you coming to us live from Calabasas?
Yes, I am. I am still at home in Calabasas, near my office, Calabasas Pediatrics, and we're right on the border of mandatory evacuation. So I've still been working. I've still luckily been at home, which is different for so many. And I also have power and Wi-Fi back again, which is so helpful.
I got to ask you, I mean, we're going to talk about the effects on everyone, like what it's doing to your body. But for the people who are frustrated with not being able to get back into the Palisades area or the Altadena area, we have to stress one of the reasons, aside from it being so dangerous, is just the everything that is burning is so toxic. When I was along PCH yesterday, I could not believe, like, I feel like I took like a year off my life because the insane chemicals that I was smelling and inhaling, that for the regular person who doesn't have like a strong mask, or can you? I mean, it's got to be toxic to everyone. Can you talk to that?
Definitely. You're absolutely right. I mean, the first thing is to follow evacuation instructions in your area. But unless you're ordered to evacuate, it's really safer to stay home, keep your windows closed, your doors closed, recirculate the air inside of your home. The air quality is so poor right now through so much of Southern California, even in the areas not directly affected by the fire. And as you mentioned, it's affecting everyone. Wildfire smoke is a mixture of small particles, gases, water vapor, toxins, chemicals. And the primary concern is that these small particles, they can cause burning of your eyes, runny nose, scratchy throat, headaches, wheezing, trouble breathing, and illness. But they also can be inhaled and go into your airways and cause inflammation, which may not affect you today, but may affect you days or weeks later even. So if you do have to be outside, it's recommended that you wear a KN95 mask. but stay inside if possible, if it's safe.
Yeah, you know, from my experience being out there this week, and I was over at the Eaton Fire in Sierra Madre, and these homes already burned to a crisp. And when I got there, it's a different type of smell, right? It's a different, when you smell it, you're taking in all of the toxins there. You mentioned itchy eyes, redness. I had a pounding headache.
Oh, my head's killing me right now.
I mean, you're prone to that. And I had only been out there for one day. I cannot imagine for our firefighters, our first responders, the residents who have been displaced, who are fighting for their lives essentially. At what point is it going to have a long-term negative effect on your body? And just really stress the importance of not taking that in.
Yes, I mean, it's those that are highly more vulnerable are young kids, the elderly, pregnant people, anyone with underlying heart and lung conditions. Then, you know, it's really more important for you to stay inside, wear a KN95 mask. But also, if you are normally on any asthma medication, any eye drops, anything to prevent these symptoms, talk to your doctor about starting them right now, or get your prescriptions to have it on hand. I've really been on the phone nonstop the last few days with families who were evacuated, of course, forgot their medications, like their asthma inhaler at home, said, should we go back and get it? And I said, absolutely not, never go back, but find a pharmacy wherever you're staying, get your medications to have on hand in case you need them. But even if you're not sensitive, these toxins and chemicals and small particles are so irritating. They can cause serious inflammation. And I think we aren't going to really understand the effects of people that are living in these areas, the firefighters that are out there breathing it in, you know, for days or weeks or months. That said, most of the firefighters do have appropriate equipment, so they are filtering out the particles. But if you do have to be outside, wear those KN95 masks. They do work. They do help. We all have them in our closet from the pandemic. So now's the time to take them out and put them on if you have to be outside. But I can't stress enough, stay inside. I know the kids are going stir crazy and they want fresh air, but find fun things for them to do inside that are safe.
All right, we thank you, Dr. Altman, for all of this information and a reminder stressing the fact that you got to be wearing the KN95 mask, especially if you're a part of a vulnerable population, pregnant people, young people, our older population. You know, Rich Prickett, thank you again, Dr. Altman. We'll get back with you in just a little bit. Rich Prickett, we have you for a bit longer, I understand, up in Sky 5, and it seems as though, just in the conversations we were having with Kai and with Dr. Altman, that the flames have started to get larger.
Yeah, they certainly have. Definitely here in the Mandeville Canyon area. When we got here this morning, the fire had not actually crested over down into Mandeville Canyon Road. So within the last 6-7 hours, now it's right here along the Canyon Road and in the backyards of these homes. And it's something they've been trying to avoid for the past few days, is trying to keep it out of this zone. And eventually, Mother Nature has found a route, and it has made its way in here. So they're going to continue bringing in those water dropping helicopters, the FOSCHEC lines. We just saw several fixed wing aircraft make those FOSCHEC drops within the last hour. It takes them some time to turn around. They got to get back to their home base, take on some fuel, and fill up with some more of that red retardant, and then return, and then they will continue to paint lines up and down Mandeville Canyon. This is a priority area for them right now. So again, we will keep an eye on this. We're going to go ahead and head for fuel, but right here in this zone specifically, we're seeing some large flames along the Mandeville Canyon area and Garden Land Road.
Rich, how long will it take you to fly back to Whiteman Airport, refuel, and then thank you for your work this morning. I know Gil Levis is stepping in for this afternoon's coverage.
Indeed he is. He's actually en route, if not at the airport, standing by as we speak. So it's going to take us a good 15 minutes or so to fly back to the airport. We're up at 7,500 feet, actually make that 8,500 feet, so it's going to take us a little time to descend. So it'll be a little while, but we will top off, and there's a good chance that Gil Levis will be joining you on the next flight.
Okay, all right. I mean, it's so scary to think that we're going to lose this shot for a half an hour or so. What could possibly happen when we see Sky 5 again? But thank you again, Rich. Head on back now. Thanks for your service this morning.
And we have Omar Lewis, who is standing by in the area to give us a look at what it is like, boots on the ground there. Omar.
Yeah, we could tell you that we're here off of Westridge and Cordelia. Want to show you the scene behind us here, where you can see those fires that they were talking about up in Sky 5 just a few moments ago. That road here, Mandeville Canyon Road, is where the homes are currently being threatened and where firefighters are actively trying to stop flames from reaching these properties here. But it is encroaching closer and closer at this point. And so that is the main concern here. And you can see these firefighters on the ground trying to stop these flames actively themselves. But this is a canyon that is tough terrain for these folks, is what firefighters told us. So between the terrain and the winds, these are the challenges that these firefighters are facing right here on the ground as we've been speaking to them throughout the morning. Something else that they wanted us to tell folks is not to fly drones. Believe it or not, some folks have been flying drones in this area, which has impeded on their aerial assaults. Drones are prohibited at this time, as you can imagine, but people have been trying to fly drones here, which has been an issue as well. So firefighters told us to specifically get that word out there to folks not to fly any drones here in this area. But this hillside continues to burn here in Mandeville Canyon. The good news, where we're located, again, off of Westridge, if you're familiar with the Westridge Trail, that is what this trail is at the top of this hillside here, and these firefighters have been able to stop those flames from coming closer to the homes that are in this specific neighborhood, again, in Brentwood, Mandeville Canyon area again. So firefighters luckily have been able to do their best job here, stopping those flames and actively trying to dig a fire line out here as well, is what we've been seeing during the last several hours. And so they are on the ground, they are in the air doing what they can to try to stop these flames from spreading at this point. Right now, the winds have died down to an extent compared to just about 20 minutes ago when they picked back up again. So firefighters tell us these moments where we get that lull are critical in this firefight, giving them a little bit of an advantage or a chance to take advantage of the conditions. And so that's exactly what we're seeing right now with the winds dying down. You don't see any trees moving or anything like that out here, but they do come and go. And so right now, firefighters trying to take advantage of the current conditions as we've seen it. But those structures that we saw burn down earlier today, just to give you a little perspective, are just on the other side of this ridge that you're looking at currently. Those homes located along Mandeville Canyon Road, just an offshoot here of Merrimack, which is just this road right here that you're seeing. And again, we were told not to go down to that road just because it is a smaller road with older homes, and it has been difficult for firefighters trying to access and get up and down this street, and they do not want any of our live trucks, our news crews down there. So we've stayed put here in this neighborhood, giving us this vantage point at this time. And we've seen those airdrops coming and going, water drops, I should say, coming and going here in this neighborhood as firefighters try to drop the retardant, drop water, do anything they can to stop these flames from spreading here. And hopefully with the winds dying down just for a moment, it gives them a bit of an advantage. But for now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Omar, thank you. You can see on the right-hand side, we did lose Rich Prickett up in the air, but this was an earlier shot of Mandeville Canyon. Omar, currently we see the white plumes of smoke behind you, indicating fires have been put out at this point. We are staying on top of it. We will get back in the air in just a little bit. But I know we have Erin Myers also standing by. She's on the other side of where this fire has expanded, the Encino side. I understand the Mountain Gate Country Club nearby. Erin Myers, take it away. What are you witnessing?
Hi, Megan. Yeah, we're here near Canyonback and Mountain Gate, and you can see behind me we have a lot of smoke in this area. This is Mandeville Canyon Road down below. We can't see it here, but you can see some of the fire there behind us. We have been seeing it flare up now a bit on the hillsides. We are still seeing these aircraft coming through doing the fire retardant and water drops. Not as many as when we saw you last hour in this area, but they do have firefighters stationed here. There are several crews. You can also see working on structure protection. At this point in this neighborhood, we have not seen the flames get extremely close to the homes, but firefighters here keeping an eye on everything. This is one of the areas that has been evacuated, and we are seeing firefighters from all over. Utah there, they are the ones working on the structure protection at this home. But I do want to show you some video. This is why this area, though, so important and why they are hitting it so hard, though. Earlier this morning when Rich Prickett was in Sky 5, you could see that home that was destroyed in Mandeville Canyon. It was near Mandeville Canyon Road and Merrimack Road. Firefighters are all around Brentwood right now. They are working on protecting structures. They're still doing those water drops. As I said, we have been seeing them dropping fire retardant as well as the water. And we know that overnight, last night, they were working as well as the fire intensified in Mandeville Canyon and Sullivan Canyons. Also headed towards Mulholland Drive in the Santa Monica Mountains. We know the more than 50, you can see it flaring up right now. If you do still have that live picture there on the hillside, it is definitely flaring up quite a bit here. Still far away from the homes in this neighborhood. It might look close to where we are, but not right on top of them at this point, but you can see that flare up. But I do want to say, people in this neighborhood, most of them have left, but there have been a few still here. We saw a couple evacuate earlier this morning. So if you are still in one of these evacuation zones, you are going to want to get out. I think we do have video of that. I can show you a map to let you know which areas you need to probably leave at this point. A good idea with these winds picking up at times here. These are from Sunset Boulevard north to the Encino Reservoir, and from the 405 freeway west to Mandeville Canyon. Also areas east of the 405 freeway, north of West Sunset Boulevard and south of Mulholland Drive, along with areas south of Ventura Boulevard and east of Louise Avenue in Encino. Now, you are going to want to leave if possible, because this area, you should. If firefighters, they say, get out if you can. Get out of these mandatory evacuation zones if you can. You can still see those fires burning there in the hillside. Now, we do know, we've seen some sheriff department through here as well. They are still keeping people out of the area at this time. The curfew is still in place from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. That will be in place until it is lifted by officials. And I do want to mention, I want to put something up on the screen for you. There's a meeting tonight for people who've been affected by the Palisades fire. It's a community meeting. It's happening at Calvary Westlake Church. That will be Westlake Church, Calvary Westlake Church. That's happening at 6:30 tonight. It can also be streamed on YouTube, so those affected can get more information. But right now, firefighters, they tell us, of course, still about protecting lives, protecting these homes. But if you are in there, if you haven't left, especially Mandeville Canyon Road, those areas, it's hard to get out of. Let firefighters do what they need to do, get out of their way so they can get in there, do these water drops, protect those structures. But right now we are keeping an eye on the hillsides here, burning quite a bit. Right now, though, not right on top of us in this neighborhood of Mountain Gate, but this is one of those areas that was told to evacuate. And like I said, the majority of people have. Not everyone, though.
You would hope everyone, because again,
yeah, you can see a lot of smoke right now. A lot of smoke right now. So we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Well, we'll stay on the shot, and Kai can speak to this, but the one way in and out in this area. And to your point, Aaron, it looks like that fire is on top of those houses pretty much. But Kai, you're explaining it's not as close?
Yeah, it's not that visually. It's sort of like, it looks like that, if you will. So what we're taking a look back here is the Canyon Back Trail area. So a lot of people, this is a beautiful hike. It really starts up there in Dirt Mulholland as you make your way up to the top of Havenhurst. Then you get to Dirt Mulholland and you go west a little bit, and you can get out of your car and walk all the way down to the Mountain Gate Country Club, the Mountain Gate area. And that turns from the Canyon Back Trail into Canyon Back Road. And this is what we're looking at right now. And as I was describing before, you saw a great visual example of how fast fire moves when it goes uphill. We just saw that flame. It was really moving, and it has already chewed up a lot of the area that we saw coming with those bigger flames. And then to the right side of your screen, it's starting to pick up once again. But getting into the Mountain Gate area, that is sort of one way in and one way out. And I can guarantee you that they've got a lot of security officers up in that area. The country club is there. They've gotten people out. They got the call. That's a mandatory evacuation community that is in there in that area right now. But there's just a lot of brush. And what we talk about is there's low-level brush, mid-level brush, and then high fuel. and what we're seeing is mid to high. Some of these trees that are on fire in this live shot right now, they're 5.5, 6 feet tall. It's tough to make out, but they are that tall.
And this firefighter, I believe, was telling Omar earlier today that this specific area has not burned in 50 years.
50
That
years.
is crazy. So imagine how dry that is.
And dry, and not only that, but if you were to sort of dissect a tree, like what we're looking at, any of these trees, when you break them open, there's a lot of there's fuels inside. It's very dry, and there's oils, and those oils can become quite flammable, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing some of those oils mixed with the dry wood just catching quite quickly, and unfortunately, this is the big issue we're dealing with, the low relative humidity values. It is so quick to just spark off and move, and we're seeing smoke on the left-hand side of your screen. Right there in the middle, though, just above the fireplace and the power lines, you see that retardant strike. You see it, it's a pink strike.
It kind of looks like that's on fire now.
Well, what it does, and Rich talked to that, it doesn't stop the fire. It slows the fire down. It hopefully prevents the fire from jumping or the spread of the fire.
And now everything's sort of connected, and now it's like a bigger fire.
The electricity tower, the lines, if we could pan to the left, whoever the photographer is, the flames looked like they were about to chew that up, although the smoke now
visually it looks like that, but that's well behind that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
It's well behind that. But what they're also doing is, I'm certain that the electric companies, these lines are now de-energized. So if the fire were to hit one of these lines and they were to fall, they would not spark off additional fires. So they've de-energized a lot of these lines. They put out alerts to the people in these communities from Encino to Sherman Oaks, Studio City, and then back along the 405 towards the Getty Center. Hey, you might have your power out for 24 hours. We'll let you know when it's coming back on. So that's one of the things they do to prevent the fires from spreading further if those lines were to catch, if they were to break, separate, and hit the ground. But we're unfortunately seeing a lot of dark smoke there on the left-hand side of our screen, and I don't like that.
No,
there are a lot of properties in that particular area, a lot of homes, and there's a tennis court, a rather large tennis area near there as well. I do know I hike down to there quite often. Of course, that's not burning because it's just concrete, but there are a number of homes that are right across from that tennis court, and they're in this vicinity. I hope to not alarm anybody if you are watching this. We don't know for sure. This has not been confirmed, but there are multiple residences in this particular area here in the Mountain Gate community. And unfortunately, Mountain Gate is right up against Sepulveda Boulevard, as well as the 405. So we are now getting a little bit concern for this fire to go further and further to the east. We don't want it to jump over the 405. We don't want it to make its way up near the Skirball Center, which is also there. There are a number of schools as we watch that big water drop, that tanker overhead, and they're scouting, they're hunting and pecking, if you will. They're taking a look at where the fires are breaking out. There's the spotter plane in front of that DC, and that spotter plane is saying, okay, here's where we're going to go and do the next drop.
And oftentimes,
are you? Rick Chambers joining us now.
Here.
Yeah, if they could
offer his perspective,
that would be great.
We can hear you.
And you guys are speaking about aircraft, and all morning since 6 o'clock this morning, we saw a C-130, multiple C-130 aircraft, Chinooks, sponsored by SoCal Edison. You had fixed wing aircraft. I mean, it started with 4 to 5 overnight. We thought that was great because it's so different than what we saw with the Palisades fire when it first started days ago. And then now it's turned into, dozens of water drops at this point. Can we get the video up? Because it looks like these flames have been slightly more contained than a couple of minutes ago.
We also saw a lot of planes coming down from Canada.
Yes.
They helped tremendously for the Pacific Palisades fire. They were able to scoop up the ocean water and dump it right on that fire. So that was extremely helpful. But we've seen assets coming in from Kern County, assets coming in from Arizona, New Mexico, San Francisco, everywhere. This is all hands on deck.
But you know, our area, our viewing area in the Southland covers so much territory with some 7 counties. I feel like we're going to need resources, way more resources with this upcoming windstorm with Monday to Wednesday, because we just don't know where other fires could spark.
Well, you know, we'll talk about that as the afternoon moves on, but there is a quote unquote war room, and everybody is there. They're huddled up with the firefighters. They are planning strategically. They know exactly where these assets need to go, how many need to go here, there, everywhere, and they are doing a spectacular job, and they are stretched extremely thin between the San Gabriel Valley, the Santa Monica Pacific Palisades area, Topanga Canyon, Malibu Canyon, and now here up above Encino.
Well, the San Gabriel Valley, I think, is about 80% contained at this point. So I think they're just in there pretty much mopping up at this time.
They are.
We do want to show the video that earlier this morning at around 6 o'clock when the house, we saw it look perfectly
Mandeville
fine.
Canyon.
Mandeville Canyon, exactly, one way in, one way out. And we saw the boots on the ground with the firefighters there, the aircraft, the water drops, and we thought, oh, this isn't going to hit the house.
Yeah.
The flames are contained, all is good, until it wasn't.
Well,
and then on live television, this house burned down. This is obviously footage from, and quickly. It's
And
now
nothing is
reduced
left.
to ash. So
Well,
you're looking at
I
video.
think a lot of people were saying, why not bring the helicopters in and make
And
water
then
drops?
finally they did.
And they did 2 of them, about 1,000, 1,200 gallons apiece, and it did nothing. The flames just popped back up, and that's when they decided, I think, let's just let it burn. We're wasting assets
resources.
on this.
And so if you continue to watch this video, you will see the end result and just how sad it was. You know, to your point, Courtney, you were watching from the makeup room, and it's you from the human side of this, and for the viewers who may be watching who owned this home, how heartbreaking.
I just think that probably the homeowner was watching. I don't know if it was our channel, but I'm sure all the channels were on this home, because when people are evacuated, they especially want to keep up with the news. And I feel our compassion goes out to you if you're seeing this video and now we're replaying it. I can't imagine the emotion that must be to just witness that.
And one of the problems is that the canyon walls are so steep that you can't get any of the hand crews in there in most cases. So they have to rely on these airdrops to come in. And as we watched the airdrops on this particular site, it didn't do much. So I think they're just going to concentrate on getting the brush out and making sure they can get a line in between the homes and the canyon wall.
And saving lives first,
Exactly.
property second. You talk about those resources and how, you know, Kai, go back to what you were saying about the fingers and the way in which the topography of this area and the fire comes through. You don't know, the wind will be going east and then suddenly it will be going west. That was again from earlier. One of the drops you were referring
and
to.
it smothers the house, and then as soon as the smoke clears, you can see that it just didn't do any good.
Yeah, it looks like it is effective, but it is not effective.
It turns to steam almost
it does.
immediately.
And also, these crews have been making these huge, like bulldozing fire lines, cutting it, but that does nothing if the ember casts fly.
Well, it does help. It helps tremendously, especially up in Mulholland. That is a long time fire break, if you will, and there are little areas all through the Santa Monica Mountains where firefighters and fire crews camp out. They do a lot of drilling up there. They practice constantly up in those areas, all the way towards Topanga Canyon near Eagle Rock. They're constantly cleaning out those areas and getting the brush away. But, you know, there's a lot of, unfortunately, residences now in these particular areas that are backed up against Mulholland at the corner of Sepulveda Boulevard and the 405. You've got Mount St. Mary's, which is now being threatened. You've got the Skirball Center. There's Berkeley Hall School. There's also the Merman School. So there's a lot of, really big schools and important structures that are up in these areas. And you know that there are crews that are at the ready at each one of them, prepared to fight and not have any of those areas threatened.
Yeah, I think the firefighters are working as hard as they can to keep that fire as far away from the 405 as they possibly can.
Absolutely, yeah.
And last night they were closing off all the exits on the northbound side of the 405. You weren't able to exit Sunset or even Wilshire, Mulholland, Skirball Center Drive, so people won't be able to go back in, because and they were cutting they were going around to get in as well. So please, people, do not try to get back into that area right now.
Yeah, all that traffic just clogs the streets the fire trucks can't move to where they have to go as quickly as they would like, and it just causes problems. And I know a lot of people are in there trying to take pictures and trying to, we've heard about drones still flying even after they hit the planes. So people are just trying to get what they can get and then get out, but it's causing big problems.
Okay, we're continuing to look at this footage from earlier. We do have Omar Lewis, who we want to get back to. He is out there near this location where this happened, Mandeville Drive, or Mandeville Canyon, I should say. So what are you seeing now? That was very dramatic footage from earlier today when that house was reduced to ash. And right now, what is the temperature out there?
Well, right now things have calmed down for the moment. Firefighters really getting a handle on the flames from our vantage point where we're located, which the home that you all were just speaking about, located on Mary Mack and Mandeville Canyon Road, is just on the other side of this white smoke that you see. But these firefighters on the ground right here, they are really making some active progress in trying to stop these flames, along with the retardant that you're looking at from a drop that just happened about 30 minutes ago. And so what we can tell you is that these firefighters have chainsaws in their hands. They are actively cutting back this brush, trying to make progress and stop these flames from right here. And so there are several homes located right here in this canyon, along these ridges at the bottom of the canyon as well. And so that is really the concern here, is actively trying to get inside of this area. You know, it took a little bit for firefighters to try to coordinate getting inside of the canyon because it is such steep terrain, but they figured it out. They got inside here with their drills and chainsaws, trying to cut back this brush, and it seems to be making some progress here in this area, which is the good news, as they try to protect those homes located just at the bottom of this hillside here on Mandeville Canyon Road. And so that is the main concern right now in this area where we're located, is trying to stop those flames from reaching that point. Earlier, we were talking about the smoke as well. The white smoke is a good sign that the active flames are out, but that darker smoke that you see there in the distance, that is the more menacing fire that is happening right now as well. So we see flames shooting up on that hillside also every now and then, but here closest to us, they are making some good progress as far as stopping these flames from reaching Mandeville Canyon Road. These houses located all up and down here. Where we're located is just on West Ridge Road in Cordelia. We could pan the camera and show you that vantage point as well. And these firefighters have not let up here either, trying to protect these homes just that back up to this area here. These firefighters have been on this back deck here for hours now with water hose lines, trying to wet the area and make sure those flames don't encroach on this property as well as several other properties, driving all throughout this neighborhood here. All you see up and down the street are fire trucks from all across our country here that have now made it and descended upon this area to help out as well. And so that is the scene here in this community as firefighters actively work to put a stop to these flames. But as I pan the camera, and just in the last 30 seconds of us talking, that smoke has now changed. And you can see is growing, that smoke column in the very back there that is darker lets us know that something is actively burning over there. I do not believe there are any properties located where that stack is right now. However, it is always concerning as these flames try to make its way across the top of this ridge here. And so behind us, where these planes are actively coming and going, trying to make drops on this area because it's volatile. It can change at any moment. We were speaking about 30 minutes ago to the fire captain who said, hey, right now things are great as far as the wind, but that could change any minute as well. So we are seeing this fluid situation out here as firefighters work to do everything they can to get folks to make sure that their properties are safe. Most people have heeded those warnings and evacuated. When we first got up to this area, probably around 7 o'clock this morning, we saw a homeowner who had a water hose in his hand, and he was just actively trying to spray down his neighbors' houses, tears in his eyes as he was talking to me, saying that, you know, he was scared, didn't know what would happen. But the good news for those folks who are along West Ridge Road, the fire has not reached that area, and firefighters again have actively been able to stop that. Mandeville Canyon Road is the concern again out here right now. And so that is a little bit of the lay of the land and exactly what's happening. But these firefighters on the ground, in the air, doing what they can to make sure that they protect these properties and stop these flames from spreading. You can see them going up and down. I think this is a crew from San Luis Obispo, from CAL FIRE, that are now actively along this ridge side right now, doing what they can to protect this area. So that is the latest for now, ladies, and Kai, will send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Omar, we appreciate that, and that view that you're giving us right there shows just how steep the canyon walls are, and the fact that we've got a number of people on the ground, some of those hand crews, Megan, is encouraging as well.
Yeah, and this is just extended version of our newscast here. So I'm getting out of the seat, Rick Chambers in it, and you guys are going to take it from here as viewers continue to watch this morning. And we have the Palisades fire that continues to burn more than 22,000 acres, 11% contained.
Be
Great
safe
job
on your way
this
home.
morning. And if we could just look at that shot right there, just how small the firefighters are on that huge hillside. I mean, it looks like they look like the size of ants. It just shows you what they're having to navigate here. And also we can see just the tough terrain they're having to deal with and what a excruciatingly difficult job it is. So we thank all those firefighters out there that are doing this work for us right now.
Yeah, and you can see that red line to the right of your screen there. The FOS check that was dropped earlier today by one of the planes coming through did its job. You don't see any flames on the other side of that line. As Court just mentioned, the hand crews are in there. They're trying to put out some of the hot spots that are just to the left of that red line, and that'll keep the rest of it from coming down the hill. And we saw some firefighters on the balcony of a home not too long ago. They're up there doing structure protection. They're watching just like the rest of us are. There was no active flame burning near them, but oftentimes they'll let some of the flame, as long as it's not critical to some of the homes in the area, they'll just let it burn, so it eats up a lot of the vegetation, and we don't have to worry about that at some other time. But Kai, as we look at the smoke pouring out of that canyon there, most of it's going straight up in the air. Yeah,
we're beginning to see, through the night, of course, we've seen an onshore flow. And so now we're switching gradually back to an offshore flow, and unfortunately, this is not good news. We will continue to see the winds strengthening as we make our way through the rest of the afternoon and definitely through the overnight hours. You can see the winds right now coming out of the Van Nuys area in the San Fernando Valley on the left-hand side of your screen at about 22 miles per hour. And of course, we're going to continue to focus on those numbers that are coming out of the San Fernando Valley. But we're also, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, beginning to see some stronger winds making their way out of that Cajon Pass area into San Bernardino, 17 mile per hour sustained winds into Corona, 23 mile per hour sustained winds. We're picking up again a good deal of winds that will continue to start to make their way out of the north-northeasterly direction a little bit more as we head through the afternoon hours. For the time being, the Santa Monica Mountain Range right now, the eastern sections where the fire lines are, this is a wind advisory, and that's going to stay in place until about 6 o'clock. But unfortunately, Court and Rick, by the time we do turn the corner into 6 o'clock, the advisory turns into a warning, because we're going to go from winds gusting to 45 miles per hour to winds gusting to 65 miles per hour as we make our way through the night tonight. And we'll see that high wind warning staying in place until tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, and as you're talking about the winds, we're also seeing the humidity levels seem to be dropping as well. Crashing. And that's why we're seeing a lot of those red flag warnings. And we do have a red flag warning that's in place for much of the Inland Empire. And here is what we're talking about. You just mentioned it, Rick. Look at these relative humidity values. They're getting lower and lower as the minutes move on. 12% relative humidity in Van Nuys. Again, that's just bone dry. Burbank right now, 24. You can see the LA Basin, 54%. So that's good. That's moisture coming from the sea. But in the next hour, we're going to see that number beginning to fall as well. But that area, that basin, the LA Basin, out of the criteria for both the fire weather warning, the red flag warning, and the fire weather watch. But now, once again, most of Southern California has returned to a red flag warning. And it's not just through the night tonight, but taking us through tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as well as Wednesday, the middle of next week. So we're going to continue to see for the next 4 to 5 days similar extreme fire weather conditions happening here in Southern California. Quick fire spread as well as ignition. You must have a plan, folks. These fires over the last 4 or 5 days, we've seen them popping up in downtown Hollywood. We've seen them, of course, in the foothills near the beach communities. And this is, of course, January, and we're talking about bone dry air. We're talking about fire weather conditions. This is serious business. We typically talk about these sorts of environmental issues once we get into the spring, summertime months, even now into the fall. But this is now, unfortunately, year-round for us here in Southern California. And again, take a look at the winds throughout the later portions of this afternoon and early tomorrow morning. They do begin to pick up. Gusts of up to 50, 55, 65 miles per hour. That takes place before the sun rises on your Sunday morning. Once we get into your midday Sunday afternoon, a little bit of a break in the action. Then once we head into Sunday night and early Monday morning, some of the mountains start to see those winds beginning to pick up again. There's the Santa Clarita Valley by Monday midday, Moore Park, the Santa Susana Pass all the way out to the Ventura County coastline. Gusts to 50, 55 miles per hour. We'll see again the Cajon Pass through the Inland Empire out to Orange County. Those winds will be up to 25, 30, 35 miles per hour, and the winds continue to stick around into Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. It just goes on and on, and unfortunately, these winds are erratic winds. So again, they're just bursts here and there with winds gusting up to 50, 55 miles per hour. Now, fortunately, this is not a widespread wind event like we experienced earlier this week. That was the wind storm. We will not see anything happening like that as we head through the next few days, but nonetheless, dangerous fire weather conditions continue to stick around Southern California, and you can see that all the way to Wednesday and the air quality alert, and you can see why, because that live shot on the left-hand side of your screen, the smoke continues to pour into the atmosphere. And before I stop, I do want to take a quick look at the horizontal way that the smoke is now starting to lay down. So again, offshore flow is happening.
To hear 65 miles an hour, though, is very concerning because the first 2 days of the Palisades fire, they were dealing with 70-mile-per-hour winds.
Yeah, it's not the time to let your guard down. I mean, we have some critical problems still ahead of us, so it's you got to pay attention.
And we want to let you know two things. First of all, we will be bringing Sky 5 back onto the scene in a few minutes. We had to send Rich Perkett back to refuel the chopper, and Gil Levis will be flying back over above the Palisades fire. But while we've been talking about that specific fire all morning, we do want to update you on the Eaton fire, which of course has charred 7,000 structures, mass devastation over in Altadena, Pasadena. But we will be hearing, you can see the shot right there, County Supervisor Catherine Barger will be holding this press conference with county officials at 2 o'clock. So in just 15 minutes. So we're on standby to bring that to you as well from the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
If we've got another picture of the fire area, let's go back to that while they set up in Pasadena. Okay, Aaron Myers is in the Brentwood area. Aaron, are you there? What can you tell us? Bring us up to date.
Okay, she will be coming to her momentarily. Of course, these our crew members have had to be racing all over the place because it's so erratic where the flames are popping up. And as we saw, Omar earlier today was very active behind him, but our last live shot with him, things had calmed down a little. And then Aaron's shot, the last time we chatted with her, things were really getting going behind her.
Yeah,
okay,
and
so she's ready now. So let's go see what the situation is there.
There is a huge plume of dark smoke behind you, Aaron. It's just over your shoulder.
Hi, yeah, I'll go ahead and step out of the way. You can see the dark smoke here. We are off of Canyonback and Mountain Gate, not far from Mountain Gate Country Club. And we've been out here for several hours, all morning long into the afternoon. And you can see a lot of that smoke here. We've been seeing so many water drops. We've seen them coming in with the fixed wing aircraft, dropping fire retardant. We also have crews out here in this neighborhood working on structure protection on these homes that back up to Mandeville Canyon, which you can see here behind us. And I kind of want to walk you through what we saw when we got here. When we first got here, fire was actually burning more towards the Brentwood area. We are in Brentwood as well, but on the hillside behind us, all along the ridge. And then the winds would change, they would die down, the fire would die down. Then we wouldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, winds would pick back up and we'd see those flare-ups. And that's what's been happening pretty much all day today. Like right now, we have a little bit of a breeze going on. So that is going to be a concern, as Kai has been talking about, as those winds pick up. I spoke with firefighters out here earlier, and they tell us, of course, that's something they're looking at. They're constantly monitoring the situation. But right now, winds are not strong enough for them to have to ground any of the aircraft. And we're hoping it will stay that way. They told me that wind speed is something that they take into effect for that. They also look at the erraticness of the wind. They also will look at how smoky it is. So it has to be safe, of course, for them to be out there doing these drops. And at one point, both my photographer and I, John Neese, we both have been covering fires for years, and we just noticed we had never seen, neither one of us had ever seen this many aircraft in the air at one time doing these water drops, dropping the retardant. So they have really been trying to hit this area of Mandeville Canyon very hard. It's right near Mandeville Canyon Road below us. We can't see it here, but that is where they are working on protecting those homes. You can see it now moving over more towards, going over towards the Encino, if we were to cross over to the Encino area. So they're definitely keeping their eye on everything out here. This is one of the evacuation zones. The majority of people left. We have seen a few people still here in the neighborhood. When we got out here this morning, the home that is actually having structure protection on it right now, there was still somebody there. We saw them packing up their vehicle and then they took off. So that is the best thing to be doing right now. If you are in one of those evacuation zones, to be out of it, give firefighters, give crews the space they need to do what they need to do. We've also seen law enforcement patrolling in the area as well. The road up here, Mountain Gate, it is blocked off at Sepulveda, so they are keeping track of who is coming in and out of this neighborhood. And as you were saying, very close to the 405, where we know those ramps around this area are closed to get into it. So once again, this is the latest that we have going on here. A lot of smoke, not seeing as much active flame, but we do know stuff, it's burning. We are seeing some of that black smoke, the gray smoke there behind us. So it is actively burning in this area, but firefighters out here keeping an eye on the structures. And as Kai was saying, the flames that we saw earlier, they looked much closer to this neighborhood than they actually were, but still a dangerous situation for residents to be here.
Aaron, what about the wind?
I'll send it back to you in the studio.
What about the wind out there?
Yes,
is it picking
yes,
up? Because we had trouble hearing you at one point because it sounded like it was really windy. Are you noticing the wind picking up there?
They come and go at this point, and that's how it's been all morning long. We'll see them pick up for a little bit. We'll get some strong wind gusts, some stronger breezes, and then they'll die down completely and we won't see anything. And that's when you see the fires start to die down a little bit, and then they will pick up again. And one of the firefighters that I spoke to was telling me that they just know. They'll see the change, they'll feel the change of the winds, and they know they have to be ready because the conditions are going to change. And so that's what they are doing out here, keeping an eye on everything, trying to protect this neighborhood. But Mandeville Canyon, obviously an area of concern.
Yeah, when we look at that smoke screen behind you, Aaron, it's hard to get a little bit of depth perception on just where the smoke is coming from. I can see the firefighters around the house. They seem to have the body language of they're just watching at this point, and they're not worried right now that it's getting close. I'm guessing that smoke is coming from flames deep in the canyon.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening right now, and that's how they've been all morning. When we first got here, they actually were not at that home. Later on in the morning, they stationed themselves out there, and they've just been keeping an eye on everything. The urgency at this point, not as what we've seen in other areas on Mandeville Canyon Road and those areas where we do know that one home burned down. But of course, they are ready if anything changes. They are out here and making sure they can do that structure defense.
Yeah, it seems like an enormous amount of heavy brush just over your other shoulder there, Aaron. It seems like there's a lot for that fire to chew through before they get a handle on it.
Yes, a lot of brush here, and that's one of the firefighters told us, about 50 years, they think, since it's burned in this
45.
area. Somewhere around that, possibly 45, 50. So there's a lot to burn, a lot to char here. And so, of course, they are still hitting it from the ground. We've seen one of the choppers heading over, a couple of them. We've also seen lots of planes coming through and more than I've seen before on any of the fires I've covered.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. We'll check back with you in a minute. Right now, we want to go to Omar Lewis. I understand he has a public information officer getting an update for us. Hi there.
Hey, Courtney and Rick. Exactly. We have Captain Clinging Smith Jr. with CAL FIRE. Thanks for joining us again. We see your crews out here on the ground. Tell us what they're up to, and there's more of them out here as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so our crews down here, that's both hand crews and engine crews that are down there doing what we call cutting line and putting in a hose lay, a wet line. So they're not only bringing in hose with water to extinguish the hot spots, but they're using their hand tools to scrape away all of the unburned vegetation down to bare mineral soil to put in what we call a hand line. And as you can see, we have them working in, they're leapfrogging each other. So they're tying into the retardant line that's out there that you can see wasn't out there on the earlier shot I was with you. We had our aircraft, it's all working in conjunction with each other. So when our air tankers are in to drop the pink fire retardant to help slow that down, then our hand crews can get in there and start cutting into that, and they'll actually tie into that line and then slowly progress it around. So when those air tankers aren't here, we have the helicopters in, and that entire time that the air tankers and helicopters are there, we have our ground pounders down there cutting line and putting in hose lay. Very hard, grueling, dirty work that they're doing down there, but it's an essential part of the process.
Absolutely. And you know, right now the concern are these homes along Mandeville Canyon Road. Tell us about that as well. I'm going to hop in front of the camera and move to this side here. Tell us about those homes that are down there that are actively being threatened, and obviously the reason why your firefighters are right there on that line there trying to protect them.
So the homes down there, we have engine companies down there that are doing structure defense. So they're actually down at the homes with deployed hose lines as this fire comes down and it backs down. So our hand crews here are cutting around the open field that's below us, or the open canyon below us, going toward those homes, and they're working their way above the homes. And then if it does get to those homes before they can get that hand line over there, that's when the engine crews that are doing structure defense are down there to hit any hot spots if it does actually get up to those homes.
Got it. And for those folks who are waiting, trying to get back, we understand there are still people waiting, thinking that they can get back into their homes here. What's the message to them?
Unfortunately, up into this area, it's going to be a little while longer with the activity that's happened over here. I saw them lining up as early as 6 a.m. this morning, hoping to get back in like they did yesterday. And just keep an eye on the all the different social media and the updates that we're putting out to keep an eye, so that way you're not coming out and waiting in line for an area that we know isn't going to happen today. So that's being communicated out there on you know, when they're able to do that, and the law enforcement branch is the one that is coordinating that. And then keep an eye on the updates also with, as we're changing from into evacuation warnings into orders, and then, you know, retracting those.
Also, you made a great point earlier about the drones. I want to stress that to people. Can you tell us about that? There was a threat from a drone earlier.
Correct. Right in the middle of this, we had a break in the wind, and we were able to get not only our helicopters out here, but our fixed wing to do some really good work. And all that was temporarily paused. They were able to, it was a very brief pause. They had to circle a few more times than would normally happen. And that was because there was a drone, a civilian drone flying in the area. So that threat to our aircraft was mitigated fairly fast. But the public needs to remember that if they're flying their drones, then we can't fly our aircraft. And we need to be able to take every opportunity that we have when there is breaks in the weather to take full advantage of that. And then when we have to stop, because unfortunately it's good weather for us to fly, it's good for the civilian drones to fly also, but then it stops our operation.
Is there a prohibition on drones flying right now? They're not supposed to be in the air, period, according to the FAA. Do you know that?
I know that any time that there's a fire, you shouldn't be flying your drones, whether it's a large fire like this or if it's even just a half-acre fire, that if you're flying, somebody's going to be looking for you.
Absolutely. Tell us about what's happening all in these neighborhoods. We know your firefighters are going around clearing brush, property, making sure that property is protected. Tell us about that and what's actively happening here in these communities.
Yeah, so in the homes behind me here, up in the hilltops here, we actually, this is part of our mutual aid program that we have. We have crews from not only all over the state, from the Bay Area, or just right in these homes here, but we also have a strike team from New Mexico. So we have crews from all over the country that are here at specifically our fire right now, but at all the fires down here helping out. And what these crews are doing with this structure defense is they're clearing any flammable materials away. So whether that's a barbecue with a propane tank, patio furniture, a couple trampolines I saw, they're also moving away any vegetation that may be flammable that's around the houses, or some of these, like we're seeing up the canyon here, that have a patio or a deck that goes over the canyon that's on stilts. Anything that's grown under there, tumbleweeds that get up under there, animals, building, dens in there. With time like this, there's time to get in and clear that out. So if the fire does come below us and start going up there, any ember casts that would get in there, if they weren't there and start the fire under the deck, they're able to get in there and prep that home so that way that does not happen.
Absolutely. I speak for everyone in saying that we all appreciate all the hard work that your crews are doing out here as well. And we know that more crews are coming into this area also. Can you talk about that relief a little bit? I know that you all are working 24-hour shifts sometimes, making sure the job is done. Talk to us about the relief from these crews that are coming in from across the country.
Yeah, we do work 24 hours on, 24 hours off, and with these additional crews coming in with the growth of the fire, we're able to plug them in to plug some of those gaps. So we're able to spread out more. We're able to, as an example down here, if you use that with the leapfrogging they're doing, we're able to get multiple crews down there and start at different points to construct that line, where before we get all of the resources in from out of the area, we have to start at one point and just start moving. Well, as we start getting more equipment into the area, we can get in, and if the initial crews that were here, out here on these fires for the first 36 hours or so, we can put them into a situation like up here with structure defense, and they're still out on the line, and those fresher crews can come in. Hey, you jump off the side and go start cutting some line, those fresher crews can do that, and then we're able to rotate crews through different positions each shift that they're on, so that way there is recuperation while they're off, but then also not continually just wearing them down while they're on duty.
Absolutely. And looking ahead, that's also something that we're thinking about, the wins that we're talking about for next week and everything. How are you all preparing for that next challenge that might come?
So we still have units coming in from out of state. They're setting up a mobilization area out in Riverside County at the Noble Creek Park. All of the
in your backyard, because once that picks up, it can just push right into the house, and we don't want to see that. Look, it's getting a little more into the bushes there and getting a little closer to the homes. But look behind it.
Yeah,
that is Sullivan,
big flames
Sullivan
right behind
Fire
it.
Road.
Wow. Oh, this is very precarious. Look at that wall of flames coming towards them.
I mean, they're putting out that
Right,
small fire
and,
below, but.
Right, and that's down in the valley below it. So those flames right there that you're seeing could be a couple 100 feet tall.
Okay.
There's actually a trail down there and a fire road that's down the canyon behind there. So those flames are a couple 100 feet. They are just pouring over, getting closer and closer to the homes. I know with our compressed shot, it's kind of hard to show the separation,
Rich,
but
how far is it away from the houses? It really looks close, those larger flames, to the houses on our screen, but what you're saying is maybe there is some more distance than what is perceivable.
The White House makes the way for the rapid deployment of federal resources, including emergency personnel and financial assistance. While I was on my walk through today, I crossed paths with California Assembly Speaker Rivas, and actually the entire, I think, Assembly family was up in Altadena. I told the Speaker that the state has to be incredibly flexible and streamline all of their processes, and he has promised to work with us. My goal is to help communities rebuild like for like, if not better. But there are state and county requirements that can sometimes add an additional cost to the building process. My ask is that the state and the county work to ensure that we rebuild safely, but we must remove any new costly requirements not related to health and safety that would otherwise make it cost prohibitive for residents to rebuild. Government mandates cannot mean the difference between whether a community can afford to rebuild or not. We need to be extremely responsive to the individual needs of thousands of residents who are going to have to navigate this incredibly difficult process. Our community's resilience has always been inspirational, and it will be our guiding light as we move forward together. I understand that many of our residents are looking and thinking rebuilding is not just a priority, it is an urgent need. I've talked to people who know their home is gone and they want to begin today. I will make sure that the county works quickly to eliminate unnecessary red tape, ensuring permits are approved safely and swiftly so that reconstruction can begin as soon as possible. Again, my priority is to ensure that government becomes a facilitator, not an obstacle, as we move toward recovery. I will also prioritize creating one-stop service centers where all relevant departments are available in one place in real time to answer your questions, provide guidance, and support your rebuilding efforts. This will be designed with one goal: to make the recovery process as seamless and supportive as possible, and to make sure those resources are right there in the community where you are rebuilding. We're here to help, and we will continue to be here during every part of the process. With that, I'd like to bring up Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Maroney. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Barger. So good afternoon. The Eaton Fire is now estimated to be 14,117 acres with 15% containment. Over 7,000 structures are damaged or destroyed, and 2,832 firefighting personnel are assigned to the Eaton Fire. Elevated critical fire weather conditions are predicted to begin this evening and continue through Wednesday. Moderate to locally strong Santa Ana winds will affect Los Angeles County today and tomorrow, and again Monday through Wednesday. The Los Angeles County Fire Department will be prepared. These winds, combined with low humidities and low fuel moistures, will keep the fire threat in Los Angeles County high. Please understand that the inevitable public safety power shutoffs that will be implemented prior to this life-threatening Santa Ana wind event are crucial to preventing new fire starts, and that they help save lives. Yes, they're a challenge to deal with, but it's certainly better than having another fire start. I would like to express my gratitude to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors for their leadership and unwavering support of our residents, my fire department personnel, and me as fire chief. To our first responders battling these wildfires in the air and on the ground, we commend you for your relentless and fearless dedication in protecting residents throughout this great county. And finally, to our Los Angeles County residents, please be assured that we will continue to battle these wildfires until they are fully contained. We stand alongside all of you as we begin to plan for repopulation of evacuated areas, disaster recovery, and the rebuilding of your homes and your lives. I would now like to introduce California Interagency Incident Management Team 5, Operations Section Chief, Don Fraguglia.
All right. And thank you, Chief. Okay, so quick operational update here for the Eaton fire. Over here, as we start on the right flank in Santa Anita Canyon, things are looking really good across the front country here until we get to about here, and then we're starting to still see quite a bit of heat, quite a bit of work through here in this area. As we come across over here into the Altadena area, I want to just highlight this square box right here is a square mile. So it's a massive, massive area that we're talking about here. That's residential community. It's not wildland. It's a residence, and these are people's houses. So huge Herculean task to get through all this down here. We have a ton of work. It's many days, many weeks of work. Just wanted to highlight that a little bit. As we come through by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, this is looking good. Again, crews engaged, boots on the ground, mopping up. All through the National Forest up here, we continue to make really good progress up there. The weather's in our favor. We're using air tankers, we're using helicopters, all the tools in our toolbox to go get and put this fire out right where you see it right here. So that'll be our goals in the coming days. So thank you very much.
Now we're going to have Los Angeles County Sheriff Commander Tanya E. Plunkett.
Good afternoon. I'd like to take this time to update you on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's effort in dealing with the Eaton Canyon fire. Currently, in response to the fire, our staffing has increased to approximately 500 personnel. Within the personnel, we have active missions which include controlling traffic points, of approximately 46 hard closures and traffic control. We also have roving security to deal with looting and address those issues. And when necessary, respond to welfare requests and at the direction of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. As you may, as you may be well aware that last night we instituted a curfew order which went into effect from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and currently within the evacuation zones. It's important to know that these zones are going to be strictly enforced, and the reasons behind them is to enhance public security and address enhance public safety and address public security concerns. Within the curfew, we're asking everyone to stay clear of the affected zones unless they are authorized personnel or emergency responders. Anyone found in violation of the curfew order will be subject to a misdemeanor crime and subject to $1,000 fine. We understand that this is an extremely stressful and challenging time, but we appreciate the public's cooperation as we work together during the crisis. Since the Eaton Canyon fire commenced, we have a total of, 19 arrests, and of those 19 arrests, 4 were for curfew violations last night. We also had a search and rescue task force that commenced this morning, and that will be until the completion. It will begin daily at 6 a.m. and end at 6 p.m. That search and rescue team, we are working jointly with our partners from Los Angeles County Fire Urban Rescue, the Coroner's Office, FEMA, OES, and the use of cadaver dogs to search for remains and reunite families, most importantly. These searches will be a part of a grid search, like I mentioned, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. due to safety concerns and our inability to operate during nighttime hours. Unfortunately, we report that we have 8 deaths within the Eaton Canyon fire area that was affected by the fire. And in an effort to deal with the death and the tragedies as a result of this fire, we do have, working with our partners, family assistance centers that are open to provide information to people looking for missing family members, and that location is the Pasadena Civic Center. It will be comprised of OEM, sheriff's deputies, LAPD, Red Cross, the medical examiner, and the Department of Mental Health. On scene, it's important to remember that if you have missing family members, we have two personnel on scene to take those missing persons report for the family members and or friends. In closing, I'd like to mention that we all know so many people have been impacted by the disaster and need help. If you are in a position to help and support the counties, we would appreciate that, and please contact Emergency Network Los Angeles by visiting www.nlaenla.org. At this time, I'd like to introduce Los Angeles County Public Health Dr. Amish Mahajan.
Good afternoon. My name is Anish Mahajan, Chief Deputy Director of LA County Public Health. I'd like to start by thanking the first responders for their heroic efforts and extending our thoughts and prayers to all who have experienced such profound loss with these fires. We in public health are committed to supporting those in need in the months ahead. I'd also like to thank the county supervisors, especially Supervisor Barger, for their extraordinary and thoughtful support of public health and all our county and city partner departments. Yesterday, a local health emergency for LA County was declared by both Secretary Becerra at the federal level and by the county health officer, recognizing the substantial risks to public health due to the impacts of the critical fire events and windstorm conditions. The South Coast Air Quality Management has issued a smoke advisory through Saturday, January 11th at 5 p.m. This advisory will surely be extended. We are all experiencing this wildfire smoke, which is a mix of small particles, gases, and water vapors. It's those small particles that get into our noses and throats and cause those sore throats and headaches. But we must also be very careful for those who are at higher risk for bad health effects from wildfire smoke, and those include children, the elderly, those with respiratory and heart conditions, and people with immunocompromised states. They may have worse symptoms like shortness of breath, wheezing, cough, and chest pain. Everyone in the areas where there's visible smoke or the smell of smoke, and even where you don't see that, we know that the air quality is poor, so you should limit outdoor exposure as much as possible. Do not engage in outdoor physical activity. If you must be outside, wear an N95 or a P100 mask. These are high filtration masks that take out those small particles that get into your body. Keeping indoor air as clean as possible is also important. Keep your windows shut. If you have an air conditioning that can pull air from the outside, that can recirculate air, you can use that. If you have a HEPA air filter or HEPA air purifier, that will help too. All of us are at risk with the poor air quality right now, but some of us in LA County are at even greater risk. For example, if it's part of your job to work outside, it's important that you wear an N95 or a P100 mask. In these situations, you may ask your employer for an N95, and they're required to provide it to you free of charge. The LA County Department of Public Health is offering N95 masks through the interim housing sites, shelters, and street teams to LA residents who are experiencing homelessness and living outdoors, and to those persons who are evacuated from where they usually live and staying in temporary shelters. Family assistance centers will also offer respiratory masks to residents who are returning to fire zone areas as they clean up the fire damage. The County of Los Angeles and our partners are also working to distribute over 5,000 HEPA air purifiers to senior centers, nursing homes, and other facilities where individuals are at the highest risk of residing in the worst air quality. Finally, if you experience severe symptoms like coughing, shortness of breath, wheezing, chest pain, palpitations, nausea, please contact your doctor or medical provider or go to an urgent care. For life-threatening symptoms, please call 911. I want to finish by noting that we understand this is a very difficult time for those who are evacuated, and we have a lot of folks who want to get back to their homes and to their neighborhoods. But we want to ask folks not to return home until you're told that it's safe to do so. There is a lot of toxins left over after the fire. There's a lot of smoke there. And once you are going back, the key is to remain covered up. Make sure you're wearing gloves. Household dishwashing gloves are okay. Long sleeves, long pants, and you should be using an N95 mask. The LA County Department of Public Health is also offering N95 masks to LA residents who are returning to the fire zone areas as the cleanup of the fire damage begins. Those masks are also available at the county evacuation centers and other sites. I'm going to finish there and happy to answer questions. Next, I'll invite City of Pasadena Mayor Victor Gordo.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just returned from visiting the devastated areas of Pasadena and Altadena, and devastation really is the only word. I visited with the Southern California's congressional delegation, and I'd like to thank them for taking the time to see firsthand exactly what's happening in our community. While it's devastation up there, I know that our community, our people in Altadena and Pasadena, and we really are one community, is a resilient and strong community. And I'm here to tell all of you that the County of Los Angeles, Supervisor Barger, the State of California, and our congressional delegation is committed to supporting as we bounce back, and we will bounce back in Pasadena and Altadena. The resilience that we've shown in past disasters is proof of that. I'd also like to thank the first responders for all of their hard work and courage in assisting our residents. And finally, I'd like to say this: if you are thinking of coming to Pasadena and/or Altadena for the purpose of looting, know this: the Pasadena Police Department and the LA County Sheriffs will be there to meet you. If you're even thinking about it, think twice, because the Pasadena Police Department and the Pasadena and then the LA County Sheriffs will not only be there to greet you, but you will be arrested. And so I would discourage anyone from even thinking about coming and victimizing our residents. Thank you very much.
And now I'd like to introduce the CEO of Southern California Edison, Stephen D. Powell.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Powell, President and CEO of Southern California Edison. As a longtime, entire life resident of Southern California, it has been, words can't describe how horrific it is to see the impact on our communities, friends, my colleagues at Edison, even through these fires. Just been terrible to see. As we look forward, I first want to say thank you to the first responders, the fire agencies that are out there protecting the community and partnering with us on keeping people safe. I want to say thank you to our crews, our contractors, as well as those that are providing mutual assistance from PG&E that are out there working 24/7 to bring power back on in our communities. As of this morning, Edison still had about 50,000 customers without power. That's down from a peak of over 500,000 just a couple of days ago, so we're making significant progress on the power restoration. We've got over 120 crews supported by other field personnel. That's thousands of people out working 24/7 to bring power back on once it's safe to do so. At the same time, there's a lot of places where we don't have access, where there's a lot of damage that could lead to really extended outages. As Chief Maroney mentioned, we're also not through all the weather issues. We see a big wind event coming in next week, and that could lead to more public safety power shutoffs. Again, as an electric utility, we never want to shut people's power off. But to protect our communities when the conditions are merit it, we need to use it as a tool.
Voy a inventar un nuevo deporte. ¿Cuál? Tiro al mosquito. Esa. Que ronchas que dejan, ronchas que pican. Yo soy el mosquito, yo soy el mospongo. Vengo de Perú, yo vengo de Quito. Vengo de pongo, vengo de saco, vengo de corbata, vengo de traje. Venimos a picar esos giles. Piquémoslo. ¿Y quién es el que toca? Yo toco el piano.